Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with random reviews from the Overflow room. And today, and in the next video, and occasionally in some ones to follow, but exclusively in these two videos, we're talking about Haydn's operas. Haydn was not known as an opera composer, but he wrote quite a few of them. I mean, he wrote, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 of them here. I mean, for Esterházy, he did a few more and a few Singspiel-y things and whatnot. So there's about a dozen and a bit all told. And he was really quite good. I mean, it was Haydn. It was good music. His operas were overshadowed by Mozart's, as Haydn himself recognized. And once he saw Mozart's operas, he would not be persuaded to write one. He said, no, hire Mozart. He's much better than I am. But that doesn't mean Haydn was bad. Humility is not necessarily a bad thing. They were very, very popular with Haydn's patron, which is the only person he had to please, and deservedly so. He spent much of his career from the 1870s and 80s producing operas by himself and by lots of other people. He had a private opera house at his disposal, and there was a whole season at Esterházy, and he was responsible for everything, including rearranging and rewriting operas. So he spent a lot of his time, and God knows he knew how to deal with opera. He really did. So let's just talk about these one at a time. Very briefly, because we don't have all that much time for it, but what the heck. We begin with actually one of the best of them and one of the earliest ones, L'infedeltà delusa, which means, infidelity outwitted or deceived. And it's a burletta per musica, burlesque in 2 acts. It's well-shaped, it's lovely, and this is one of the Antal Dorati Phillips Haydn opera series, which it's amazing these things got recorded. I am constantly aghast at how much money and time and talent was invested in making recordings of music that really nobody was going to buy. It really is incredible. And I keep these boxes because, of course, they have the booklets and the librettos, whereas the reissues don't, which is a real pain in the ass, frankly. But also because the casts of these were so good. The performances were uniformly fine. The problem was that with these performances was that, as some noted, Dorati's handling of the recitatives was a bit clunky. They were a little bit slow go and not conversational enough. But other than that, and you can always skip them, which is what I do, the music is marvelous. And here we have Edith Mathis, Barbara Hendricks, Claes Ancio, Aldo Baldan, and Michael Devlin. A really fine cast with the Lausanne Chamber Orchestra under Dorati. And it's a funny, light, fresh, delightful opera. And all of these, remember, predate Mozart's great operas for the most part. By the time Mozart had got going in the late 1780s and mid-1780s, Haydn was on to other things. So these are definitely worth hearing. And this one particularly, it's charming. It's just charming. I don't have to go into the plot. It's funny, and it's got lots of good arias and tons of fine music, and that's fine. Then we've got Orlando Palladino. This is also one of the good ones. Actually, they're all pretty good. But, I mean, you just look at the casts. Wow. Arlene Auger, Ellie Ameling, Gwendolyn Killebrew, George Shirley, Claes Ancio, Benjamin Luxon, Domenico Trimarchi. It's just fantastic singing. Really first-rate singing and mostly first-rate conducting. Orlando Palladino is funny. It's a send-up of those opera serias with, Orlando, the Crusader and all the stuff that's going on with him. And actually, it works really well. I mean, they are amusing, especially if you know the opera seria from which these things derive. And we know them much better now because we've had this huge revival of Baroque opera and opera seria. So we get the jokes much more than we used to. And Haydn's audiences would have been, absolutely splitting their sides, believe me. And then we have La Fedeltà Premiata. Yeah, oh boy, fidelity rewarded. This is another one of these comic, tragedy, drama pastorale giocoso in 3 acts. The problem with a lot of these 3-act suckers was that the 3rd act is kind of an appendix. You have two big acts with wonderful finales and lots of music, and then sort of a throwaway third act that just resolves everything. The solution, of course, is to simply play the third act continuously right after the second. I mean, you can't have another intermission, but it still doesn't address the issue of musical anticlimax, because usually the Act 2 finale is the biggest number in the opera, or the most exciting one. But you get used to it. It's like sort of, Don Giovanni is a remnant of that, because it's only two acts. But after Don Giovanni goes to hell, it starts again. And they used to eliminate the whole final scene in Don Giovanni because everyone thought it was just anticlimactic. Well, you treat this the same way, and you're going to be fine. You really are. And it's how I look at them anyway. And what a great cast again. Lucia Valentini Tirani. Let's see, Frederica von Stade, Alan Titus, Ileana Kotrubash, Luigi Alva. What is there not to like? If you want some great singing, I think it's wonderful that these singers learned these roles and did such a fine job with them. I really do. Then we've got Armida. Oh, Armida. Armida's terrific. But there's a wonderful recording of Armida with Cecilia Bartoli and Harnoncourt that sort of has eclipsed this recording of it. But it's still fun. It's a heroic drama in 3 acts. It's really more opera serious still. But you've got Jesse Norman, Claes Ancio, Norma Burroughs, Sam Raimi, Anthony Rolfe Johnson. I mean, come on. Yeah, it's certainly worth hearing just for that alone. And then number 5. Oh, this one is funny. This is Il Mondo della Luna. This is just a farce. It's the world on the moon. It's like Mr. Bruchek's Excursion to the Moon by Janacek. It's one of those crazy things where a guy dreams he's on the moon with all the lunar creatures and people and things going on. And it's just adorable. Some of these are very long. If you had all of the recitative, they would stretch out for like endlessly. This is 3 hours and 31 minutes. These are serious operas for people who had a lot of time on their hands, like Prince Esterhazy. And after half the time when they did operas, they would the opera was just the first half. They would add a ballet or God knows. So they spent a lot of time in the theater in those days. And we've got Domenico Trimarchi, Luigi Alva, Frederica von Stade, Arlene Auger, Edith Mathis, Lucina Valentini Tirani, Anthony Rolfe Johnson. I mean, they could sing the phone book, and you should be listening to this. So these are the first 5. And they are good pieces, fun pieces, but more to the point, there's just some tremendous music, beautifully and affectingly sung by major, major, major singers in these sets. So they're important. They're important, and voice people, still speak of them with great affection, even if they're not like Haydn fans. So don't be afraid is the lesson, and keep on listening. We got more operas to come in the next video. Take care.